When it comes to Colin Cowherd and his Brock Purdy takes, I honestly stopped giving him airtime. As you guys know, there was a good portion of this particular channel where we would kind of collect and gather all the different takes and opinions on Brock Purdy because we were also just trying to really figure out what Brock Purdy was. But if you have a strong understanding of football, you probably know what Brock Purdy is. While there are still some people who discredit him and doubt him and don't give him the proper credit that he deserves, that's fine. We don't worry about those people. Colin Cowherd being one of them. But this is a great interaction between Colin Cowherd and a known ball knower in Greg Cosell. As you guys know, Greg Cosell, big time film watcher, one of the few media people who know ball and uses tape to determine their ball knowledge. So when a a guy who has chosen to go against Brock Purdy and speak negatively against Brock Purdy and what he is, it's very refreshing to hear Greg Cosell's rebuttal to Colin Cowherd. Take a listen to what he had to say here. I thought it was worth a post.
So Brock Purdy, when the roster was younger, healthier, less brittle, was a really, really good quarterback. Last year, roster gets beat up. He's 1-6 against playoff teams. Now, right now in camp, their wide receiving core is in complete shambles, and they open up against a pretty lively, athletic Seattle defense up in the Northwest. That's a tough opener. So when you looked at film last year of Purdy, going 1-6 down the stretch against playoff teams, was it that he couldn't make certain throws? Was it that the yards after catch were limited? Like 1-6 from Purdy kind of jumps out at you when you look at his early success. Now, without Christian McCaffrey, it's a different offense. But what did the film say about Purdy last year when he had to start games with a patchwork group around him?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Purdy because last week I watched 250 dropbacks of Purdy over a two-day period. Purdy is a really good quarterback, Colin. The thing with Purdy is he's not Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. He's not necessarily the kind of quarterback, even though he does have mobility, that's going to make those kinds of plays by himself that we think of, that a Mahomes makes, an Allen makes, a Lamar makes. He certainly doesn't navigate the pocket the way a Joe Burrow does. But in terms of being what we call a post-snap operator, in other words, when he takes the snap, he has such an intuitive feel for what he sees, and therefore he's a really, really good timing and anticipation thrower. It's just innate to him. He sees it really quickly. So Purdy is a high-level post-snap operator. He's a really, really good player. It gets to that old question of how many quarterbacks, Colin, and you can go back years and years, are really great when their team's not very good. I mean, Purdy is a really good quarterback. He's just not a dynamic athlete who's necessarily going to make those kind of special plays on his own. But as a pocket quarterback, he's pretty high level.
Boy, too bad Jason McIntyre's not on the show today. He'd be doing backflips after that.
Honestly, when I watch this video, it reminds me of the two sections of people. The people who do believe that Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. It's funny what Greg Cosell has said. It's the reason why it's funny to me is because it's my opinion of Brock Purdy, and has been the opinion I have had of Brock Purdy nearly since the beginning. With Brock Purdy, he is an elite processor. He is a guy who is very smart. He has the intangible qualities. He's a leader. He's, hard. He doesn't really get flustered all that easily. He does those things extremely well. He has a above average arm. He doesn't have an elite arm, but he can make all the throws. He can throw outside the numbers. He can make the difficult layered passes. He can make throws under duress, off his back foot, different arm angles, out of different arm slots. Pressure in his face, around bodies, doesn't matter. Brock Purdy can get it done. And just like Greg Cosell said, it's like, this is what Brock Purdy, this is why I stopped really kind of covering the Brock Purdy topics, or I guess you could say the Brock Purdy debate, um, because it's very clear that this is going to go on until Brock Purdy retires. And it might even still go on then, because it's very simple. Brock Purdy will never be the type of quarterback that will be compared to Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson. Now, because of that, because he will never be in that Superman tier, he will always be in the Batman tier. This is where we use this reference for a couple years now, where though Superman has all the superpowers, superheroes, superhuman strength, all can fly, all those kinds of things, right? Batman has a utility belt. He is very smart. He is very resourceful. Batman just figures it out. He works with what he's got and he makes it happen. Kind of like Brock Purdy. The whole point of the analogy is that you can be super in different ways, right? That's the point. They're both considered superheroes, but one has superpowers, one has super resourcefulness, I guess you could say, toughness, grit, things of that nature. And again, there's multiple ways of being a good quarterback, just like Greg Cosell talked about. A lot of people today believe there's only one way to be elite, and that is to be a Josh Allen, that is to be a Lamar Jackson, and it is to be a Patrick Mahomes. And I get it. That is a high bar. It's really hard. And I'm not even saying Brock is, I've never said Brock is one of those guys. But that doesn't mean he can't win and can't be good, great. I've said this from the very beginning too. I don't say someone is elite until they've done it for a consistent period of time. There might be a day that comes when I call Brock Purdy an elite quarterback, but until I see Brock put together multiple seasons of high level of play, I'm going to reserve that judgment, because to me, I do take that word into strong consideration. So I've never once said that, but I do believe he could be that. And even amidst these comparisons that we're making and this debate, it's the same thing that goes along with Tom Brady. And I'm not comparing Brock to Tom, but Tom Brady went through the same thing. Even after he won 5 Super Bowls, people were still calling him a system quarterback, still saying he wasn't the GOAT. And then he went to Tampa, wins a Super Bowl, and everyone's like, okay, all right, he's the GOAT, right? Because he did it in a new system without Belichick, all those different types of things. Tom Brady never had the elite intangibles. Yes, he was a throwback quarterback from a different era, but at the end of the day, that's why I don't really care to cover this topic anymore. I understand it gets a lot of clicks. I understand it gets a lot of views. I get that. And that's why Brock is a polarizing topic, because he doesn't look the part. And if you don't really understand football, you might not be able to catch it. You might not see how good Brock Purdy is. And that's why I like this interaction between Colin Cowherd and Greg Cosell, because, again, I feel like it represents kind of the two factions of people who talk about Brock Purdy. People who, like, for me, I watched every single snap of Brock Purdy. I've broken it down on film. I watched the all 22, not just the broadcast, not just in person. I always go back and I always watch. And I am intent in what I'm watching. I'm watching and looking to see how he goes through his progressions, what he's navigating in the pocket, how he's finding his throwing lanes, how the little tiny things that he does that always get brushed by when things are going at full speed. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I do think Brock Purdy is a lot better quarterback than some people give him credit for. But again, it also is important to remember that this, I would say at this point, is more of just kind of an engagement kind of situation, because both people are going to engage. Just look at Cam Newton. Him and his podcast really rose to popularity when we started talking about his takes on Brock Purdy. You remember that? So, it is what it is, man. Brock's going to be a target. He's an easy target because of his stature and the way he plays football. So I don't really care. What I care about is Brock Purdy playing good for this team and putting this team in a position to win games. If he's doing that, you can say whatever you want. You can tear him down. You could put him in whatever box you need to put him in to make you feel better about your football evaluations. At the end of the day, I personally don't care. I don't think you should care either, because what Brock Purdy does on the field this year, the year after that, the year after that, that's all we care about, is winning football games and pushing this team closer to a championship. And that is it. So let these guys debate. Let these guys get all mad and flustered and, make their film breakdowns of all the bad plays that Brock Purdy has made to fit their narratives. Let them do it. Just do it. Go on. Do you, boo-boo. We're going to be over here. We're going to be chilling. We're going to be having fun watching 49ers football. And hopefully Brock Purdy can be the quarterback to get us over the mountaintop. And when he does, and if he does, those people, the Colin Cowherds of the world, they got to stay over there. They got to stay on that side of the tracks. They're not invited over here. They're not invited to the parade. They can stay over there. But in the meantime, we're just going to wait and see, and we're going to see how it all pans out. But you let me know how you feel about this clip, kind of everything we talked about in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.